Anything from your end, Samantha, that you would want as we...
No, I will just be opening the session and then I will be mentioning the panelist's name. Sorry, Doctor. I have the FB Live on my phone so that I can monitor it also. I'll just be introducing the panel and telling their official positions, and I will allow them to introduce themselves and briefly greet the audience before we move on to the actual discussion. So looking forward to it.
That's fine. So I will admit people, then I think we can start on time.
All right, Doctor.
Okay. Yes, Regina, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'll have my video off for a bit. I'm curious and waiting with lots of expectations for this conversation.
Definitely, yeah. Mr. Obaseki, Nigeria, how are you?
Oh, good afternoon, sir.
Greetings.
Greetings. And good afternoon, everyone.
Right, I think it's 3 o'clock according to our schedule, and I take this opportunity to welcome you all to this 3rd edition of our Reframing Corporate Perspectives series, which we are co-facilitating with UNICAF University in Zambia, Transform Your Performance in the US, and the Center for Organization Leadership and Development, Zimbabwe. The idea behind these conversations is to discuss new concepts and new thinking around organizations, and to try and move away from deepening old paradigms which are not really transformational in running organizations. So we started these conversations around July, and we have become a big family so far in terms of our interactions. And we do hope that the conversations that we are having and facilitating on a monthly basis are adding value to our areas of engagement. Samantha Nadine Sales is from Philippines, based in the United Arab Emirates, and she's our facilitator and host for most of these conversations. And those who have been following or who are listening to the videos on YouTube, you might be having an experience or a feel of how she does the facilitation. So she'll be taking us through hosting this program today with regards to reframing corporate perspectives, our 3rd edition of the Humanizing the Workplace conversation. Before I hand over to Samantha, Regina, do you have anything to say in just a minute? And then Dr. Christine, then Samantha will take it over. Reg. We'll get back to you. Dr. Christine, are you there?
Thank you so much, Dr. Justin. I would like to just appreciate the presence of our presenters today, the ones that are going to be engaged in the discussions that we have this afternoon. Like Dr. Justin has just indicated, the family is growing. There's so much that has been coming out. There's so much that we have learned. And we are looking forward to learning from you. We've been checking each one of you, and we know that there's a wealth of knowledge behind you. And I'm sure even the other members that are waiting are looking forward to hearing from you as our team today. So thank you so much for accepting to come. And Samantha, you are always excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Doc. I see Tsitsi is one of the organizers of this Reframing Corporate Perspective series. Tsitsi, can we hear your voice before we officially start? Tsitsi. Okay, we'll get back to them. In the meantime, in the interest of time, I will hand over to Samantha to start us through today's proceedings. Over to you, Samantha.
Thank you, Dr. Justin, and I'd also like to thank Dr. Christine for her very kind words. Give me a second and I'll be sharing my screen, Doctor.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, good day everyone and welcome to the 6th session in the Reframing Corporate Perspective series. My name is Samantha Nadine Abuda Salas and I am honored to be your host for today. In this OLDN TV consultative session, we will be hearing fresh new perspectives about the theme of humanizing the workplace. We will be having 3 distinguished panelists. The first is Mr. Cleopas Chiqueta, who is the president of the Institute of People Management in Zimbabwe. Mr. Cleopas, would you like to greet the audience and briefly introduce yourself? Mr. Cleopas? Okay, maybe we can come back to Mr. Cleopas. Our second panelist for today is Ms. Mabel Mungumba, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Belcom in Zambia. Ms. Mabel, a brief hello to the audience and an introduction from your side, please.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can hear you clearly, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Okay. So my name is Mabel Mungomba. I'm talking to you from Lusaka, Zambia. And I work as a consultant in Lusaka, Zambia. But I also manage 2 companies that I co-founded. One is a consultancy firm where we do a lot of organization development, transformational work, and also change. We also add a position where we kind of make people work ready by really emphasizing on how to bring on board the human side of business as catalyzers. The other side of my work that I do is that I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. So I run a marketing agency, and my biggest passion, again, it's not a surprise because I like looking at human systems. In the marketing field, I am a branding expert and also visible concepts. So I get involved in a lot of brand building, but also my business, which is conferencing, incentives, and exhibitions business. So that is me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Ms. Mabel. There were some moments where your connection was breaking up, ma'am. We could hear and understand most of it, but maybe you'd like to move to a more network-friendly spot while we allow Mr. Owen, who will be closing up our panel for today, Mr. Owen Chilala Sikatumba, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Zambia Institute of Human Resource Management. Good afternoon to you, sir. A quick hello to the audience, if you could.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very good, sir. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be part of this great discussion this afternoon. As already said, I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Zambia Institute of Human Resource Management. Speaking to you from Zambia, Lusaka here. In my part-time also, I do lecture at the University of Lusaka in human resource management and employment law. So I think it will be very interesting to share ideas today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. I'd like to give a chance to Mr. Cleopas, if he's available, to greet the audience and give an introduction about himself. Mr. Cleopas? before moving on?
Thanks very much, my facilitator, our moderator. Thank you for that. I will just introduce myself. My name is Cleopas Chiketa, and I'm based in Harare, Zimbabwe. I'm a business executive coach. I'm the president of the Institute of People Management of Zimbabwe, as well as the deputy director of HR for the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. And I'm excited to be part of this panel. And my focus is really on the people space as well as the coaching space. And humanizing work is an exciting and an area that resonates with me. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to great conversations today.
Thank you, Mr. Cleopas. So I would also like to take this opportunity to again remind the audience to like the OLDN TV and COLD page, share this video and all our other posts, and please feel free to comment any of your questions. Just like our previous consultative sessions, we encourage your participation, and we will try our best to address as many questions from the audience as possible, either in between these discussion points or maybe at the end during the Q&A portion. So to give a brief recap of the two previous consultative sessions, there were discussions about the definition of humanizing the workplace. There were discussions about the previous panelists' overall approach and their suggested approach in humanizing the workplace. A few cornerstone principles were elaborated on. There were also talks about organizational attributes and technology, the significance of co-creation and openness, the deconstruction of hierarchies, flexibility and commitment, management pressures, the values gap, and the importance of forming proper connections. If you wish to rewatch the previous sessions, you are encouraged to, and you are welcome to access it in its entirety on the OLDN TV page. So to begin with our points for today, I would like to ask the panel this. How would each of you define the concept of humanizing the workplace? Mr. Cleopas, we can start with you.
Thank you very much, Samantha. So when I look at the concept of humanizing, of humanizing work, I am looking at a process where we are looking at the human being as a human being. So when you look at it, you are really looking at, these days, there are a lot of challenges that we are having because we are living in trying times. We are living in an age of disruption. A lot of things are happening in the global village, and you find that the pandemic has come on board, and at times, if we're not very careful, we may not consider a person as a human being and begin to look at them and consider them in terms of their configurations as a human being. A man is a spiritual man in a way, and in that process, there's need to connect. And I was just looking into the African concept of Ubuntu, which talks about you are that you are. I am because you are, and we are connecting to each other, and we connect to each other in that regard. And we need to operate beyond the mindsets and begin to connect with our heart sets. We need to configure our heart sets and begin to connect heart to heart as we lead each other and achieve results. So the concept of humanizing work believes in the fact that people are people, and we need to connect with them in their individuality and begin to harness great results, understanding them in terms of what is it that drives them as individuals, even in terms of their collective as well. You're looking at them as people and saying, when you look at them from a sociological perspective of work, you are saying, how can we get that community? Because we live in communities, and you find that when we have gone through the pandemic, we have seen that the community that we used to take for granted, the community of work, where people are living with each other in the workplace. Now that we are in a virtual environment, you find that there are certain components of that community that are being lost. And in that regard, it's affecting the way people connect to each other and the way people work. And to me, the humanizing concept of work is very critical, even in the age of artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cleopas. And I'm sure that Miss Regina, a previous panelist of ours, would agree about the point you made about hearts connecting, because she likes talking passionately about heart sets, which I think she did between the first or the second session. Anyways, coming to Miss Mabel. Miss Mabel, what are your thoughts and how would you define the concept of humanizing the workplace?
Okay, so I think that the world turns every so often, and as we've been developing, there's been shifts where we have gone to being highly industrialized, mechanized, and I think we started to forget that the catalyzers of any work or business concepts would be the human beings. So in thinking about that, I think it's just taking us back to being more right-brained as we work in our workplaces. So when we are right-brained, we begin to look at being more people-centered at work, understanding that it's easy to buy machines. So management focuses a lot on, do we have the desks? Do we have the chairs? Do we have the cars? Do we have all the equipment that we need? There is less conversation about what is the well-being of the individual that is actually going to catalyze whatever it is that we want to achieve. So in this process, my thoughts around this are just to bring back the people to saying that when we have people, there is no them and us attitude. It's just everyone training the whole workplace to be more mindful. We are getting into a very conceptual age where it's going to be even more difficult with big data coming, and it might be easier to forget people. But at the workplace, we also have an enemy, a good enemy, but it can also destroy us. Because as we are focused on things, the social media is focused on bringing out the emotional side of human being, and they are succeeding. So even for us at the workplace, let's learn from that and see that actually when people are inspired, you bring out better things, you work better together if you know each other more. And if there is an emotional space where there's empathy rather than sympathy for what is happening, the workplace becomes a better place to be. And remember that we are there from morning, maybe 8 hours to 9 hours a day. So we are spending less times in our own homesteads. So how do we build and create a workplace where there is the human element thriving so that they can bring the best version of themselves? I just want to say that for me, we've been doing a lot of work with my colleagues from the Presencing Institute, and I suspect that we didn't realize how much it was actually preparing us for this time. Because now the coronavirus came, it dehumanized the whole society. So it meant that even as we were struggling with these concepts at work, the coronavirus dehumanized the entire universe. So it has become an imperative now for us to work with really open minds and open hearts and open will, so that the workplace becomes a generative place of intelligence coming together, co-creating greatness together. Even saying, if we are going to buy machines, do those machines bring us together so that our collective wisdom can always be experimenting and interrogating together so that great things can emerge? It's about going to that inner place of knowing the internal, and it's not about being a leader or being a lower person in the workplace. It's about all of us in the workplace being now conscious and mindful that we are in an era where if we want things to emerge that are great, we have to come together and create a workplace that is also sensitive that they are people. People are people unless you make them limitless. They can do great work together. They don't have boundaries. But I think as we have been developing, we have been making people limited. And so this concept is coming at the right time, I think, just to remind people that when you're a leader, interrogate your inner space and say, why are we getting results we don't want? And soon enough, you will see it's because you're forgetting to create an environment where each person begins to interrogate their own inner space, so that if we can connect at that level, we would do great work together.
Thank you, Ms. Mabel. Oh, is that all?
So
Sorry.
probably those would be my thoughts, yeah.
Thank you, Ms.
I said, so
Mabel.
initially those would be my thoughts. It's just taking us to that space, yeah.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mabel. I see a few nods of agreement from our audience. There is Ms. Abigail. I'm hearing my echo. Are you wearing earphones, ma'am? I'm hearing my echo. Are you wearing earphones, ma'am? Oh, there it is. Okay, that's fine. You muted yourself for now. Thank you so much. I see that Ms. Abigail is agreeing and saying that focusing on the people is critical. And we see a few notes from Ms. Regina that say that the lockdowns are indeed anti-human because people are social beings and we all have unlimited potential, which is exactly what you pointed out. There is also a highlighted note from you, I believe, that Dr. Christine typed down into the chat, and she said, there is no them and us, which is a very good word. So interrogating our inner space is important, says Dr. Christine. Now moving on to Mr. Owen for his thoughts on his definition of humanizing the workplace. Mr. Owen?
Thank you so much. Especially after my colleagues have already spoken. We seem to be in agreement. But then I have a personal confession in this space that I think humanity is realizing now that we almost got lost. So the principle of humanizing the workplace is getting back to what it should have been in the original place. Understanding that all we do is actually about man or human being, put in simple terms. So if you were to produce, if you were to offer services, you are doing all this for man or a human being. Now, marrying the two principles together, the workplace and the humanizing part of it, is that a workplace should be and must be, without any doubt, especially taking in account the time we spend there, should be a place of opportunity to develop man in his full potential, so that a human being is not limited from becoming what they should be because of processes and systems that we put in place. I think in simple terms, that's what I should be saying humanizing the workplace is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. I'm sure you'll share a little bit more with our second question, but for now, let me specify. The second question is, could you share your overall approach or suggested approach to humanizing the workplace? So this time, let's start with Ms. Mabel, if it's all right.
So I want to get back to what I started sharing, which is us working with the theory U to as a tool that managers and leaders can use to humanize the workplace. Because when Otto Sharma and his colleagues came up with that U process, it was because there was a realization that as we use all these sophisticated tools and everything, we still continue to get results that we don't want. So the left side of the U speaks to us getting back to our three intelligences that we have that help us to see the human being in everything that we do. And in that intelligence, it's about switching on, suspending the voices that are not helpful to us, which is the voice of judgment, because we are human beings and we are always judging, but it's about maybe lowering that voice, but instead switching on the voice that is us working with an open mind. Because when we do that, if I was a CEO, I would then be open to learning even from the lowest person in the structure, I see them as a resource rather than a person who is subordinate to me. They just happen to be in that position because maybe they were born a little later than you, but they could have wisdom that you won't tap into if you're just, instead of dialoguing with them, you're just listening to them just out of habit. The second thing is to switch on the intelligence that helps us to open our hearts. So working with an open heart means I am empathetic. And I'm always asking, if I were in that person's shoes, would I want them to experience this? If the answer is no, then I begin to create space where I can do something different. Then there is the open will to know that as the world is evolving, collective wisdom is also evolving. So how do I suspend the voice of fear to let go just because it's coming from someone lower than me, and bring in this generative frame of thinking around things so that it's always about how we connect and collaborate and be consultative and co-create, so that then eventually we can see a different future together. It's about even being ready to reframe around ideas we've had in the past, and seeing Corona 2019 to now, what has it made us do? It's to stop and turn the beam of observation onto self. How is my behavior? What is the culture I have been growing in? I wasn't ready for this. But now, how do we move forward as a collective? I like the idea of bringing in the Ubuntu because that comes naturally to us. So when we are at that point of an open will, it is me realizing that I only exist because of interactions with other people. If we bring that same culture into the organization, I think that it will be easier for us to move forward and actually let come the newness that's coming, because now we have to be doing this on a daily basis because we don't know how tomorrow will be. We thought we had gotten over the third wave in Zambia. Now we're hearing there's a fourth wave coming. It means that whatever plans we had for the last quarter, we must go back to the human beings and say, what else? We can only do that if we believe that together we can co-create greatness. Together we can crystallize thought on a daily basis. Together we can keep renewing energy in the workplace. If now it demands us to go back home, we have had lessons from 2019. How do we make home better for people so that they can still continue to be productive? What happened when people were in hospital? How did we reintegrate them? What are the safe boarding things we have now gone through? So we've got lessons that we can build on, but also knowing that the world is now converging. So we don't know whether the fourth wave will bring with it new learnings. So we must be ready to anchor that. And that can't come from machines. It can't come back from managing. It can only come back from co-creating, from collaborating, from working together, being also transparent and understanding that the next person that's sitting with me is my resource, is my source of learning, but is also my source of strength. And we can only move on in this new VUCA world if we are holding hands and doing things together. Collaboration is not about holding hands and singing Kumbaya. Collaboration is about entering each other's hearts and connecting at that point where we can say safely that we are one person and we have feelings. And because we have feelings, we must continue to dig in the layers and see what is going on in the tip of, I mean, in the internal, the 90% of the iceberg that we can bring out. Because what we are seeing in the organizations is some people having disquiet because they've lost so many loved ones. So at that point, what is the workplace for if it's not a place of healing? What is the gross national dignity that we can celebrate after people have come back from big disease? What are we doing as a management to make it easier for people to heal because families are broken? what about that person that hasn't been able to come back to the office because they've gone through all the waves of Corona? So we are talking about Corona now. What if something bigger comes? Are we ready? We can only be ready if our brains can connect in that space that only we can cultivate as leaders.
Thank you, Ms. Mabel. I see a few comments from our audience. So Ms. Regina Huba says, humans are, Ms. Mabel, I'm so sorry. Could you please mute yourself because of the feedback? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Regina Huber writes, humans are now asked to create a new and better world. Humanizing the workplace has a critical role in this new scenario. People are creating new organizations, parallel police forces, freedom travel, organizations where people come together to grow and process healthy foods, education directed by parents, and the list goes on. This is the positive outcome we are creating, and I believe these new organizations will automatically be more humane. They are based on the mindset of for humans and for humanity. In relation to this, Dr. Justin also says that I believe he is relating to what you said to Otto Scharmer's theory U of co-initiating, co-sensing, pre-sensing, co-creation, co-evolving, and tapping into the collective wisdom. Thank you for your, and of course, Ms. Dr. Christine says that you said your piece very, very well. Now moving on to Mr. Owen, if you could share your overall approach or suggested approach to humanizing the workplace, sir. Mr. Owen, you're still on mute. Sorry, sir. Thank you. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was appreciating Mabel for those great words. The several words, but my starting point to humanize the workplace will be the spirit of inclusion. I want to approach inclusion from the point that we need to value human beings of different capacities and nature and bring them to appreciate that they are one. And once a workplace does that, it will tap into all talents and capability from anyone and everyone in the organization. One of the philosophers said that when a human being is not appreciated or valued, they learn how to withhold what they know. When they withhold what they know, then we tend as an organization, as a people, to lose what we should have learned if we had valued those people and listened to them. So inclusion is a big thing for me in humanizing the workplace. The other approach is to unlearn. We need to learn to unlearn. I think we've been schooled differently that the processes, the systems will help us do this. But at this point, we are realizing that at times the systems and approaches and processes do limit human potential. So at that point, if we are to humanize a workplace, we need to unlearn those barriers and now tap into new ways of doing things so that it is a good environment which cannot limit a human being. The third one, I think I'll end with that to allow others also to comment, is to emphasize on communication. My approach is, yes, as we're communicating, we are helping humanizing a workplace. But there's another form of communication I want us to tap, which is the impact that communication creates. So everything as leaders we do, we must know that we are communicating through spoken words and unspoken words. Unspoken words will be in things like examples that we do. Whatever we do quietly, we are communicating that this is the way things must be done. So if leaders are to humanize a workplace, they must do certain things which will set as an example of humanizing a workplace. By that, they will be communicating through unspoken words, but achieving the result of humanizing the place. Thank you. I think we can share more as we continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. I am going to read the comments very briefly. Mr. Patrick says, changing mindsets from either or to a systematic mindset where humanizing the workplace and business sustainability is the same thing. I'm sure he would like to explain that somewhere along this session. Dr. Nathan says that this is a very good conversation and he wishes that it was attended by CEOs as well. Hopefully in the future, Dr. Nathan. Ms. Regina says, inclusion of all. Exactly. Truly inclusive leadership doesn't only consider categories of people. It considers and honors the individual with their unique brilliance. Well said, she says. And of course, Mr. Obaseki Samuel says that he found the delivery of Miss Mabel awesome. Collaboration is not about holding hands, about tapping, but tapping into people's minds and tapping into their collective wisdom. Now let's hear from Mr. Cleopas about his overall approach or suggested approach to humanizing the workplace. Mr. Cleopas? Yes.
Thanks, Samantha. I will borrow from some approaches that I've been looking at and working with. One such approach that I want to share two approaches. The first approach is coming from two great authorities that I respect who have been also working with me over the years. It's a trust building model by Dr. Dennis and Michelle Rayner that are based in the US, and they developed what they called the 3 C's of trust. So they talked about trust of character, trust of communication, and trust of capability. One thing that I have realized is that society and indeed organizations are facing a challenge when it comes to trust. So you find that you get into an institution, you look at the executive team, there are lower levels of trust. You get into other structures within the same organization, you also see a lack of trust between layers of the organization, and you see that trust is becoming deficient. Betrayal is becoming more like the order of the day. And that's quite key for us to look at as we explore humanizing work, because we can't humanize work when we are not trusting each other. We can't humanize work when there's deficiency of trust and there's betrayal. We can only humanize work when we look at it from a societal perspective that I have earlier on hinted to, where we are living together as a community. And you find that in our African context, if we're in a community, we borrow each other, even the basic necessities. In my country, you find that when you are living in a community, a child is a child of the community. People own each other and they say, you are my brother, you are my sister. I will make sure that I look after you and you look after me. When things are not well, we are talking to each other. So in this model, what the RAIN has brought on board is they brought on board the issue around character or trust of character, where they are saying, can I trust Samantha as a person? And in that process, they are looking at your personality, they are looking at your configurations as a person. And that assists them to be able to drive results because they understand you as Samantha. I will trust Dustin as a person because I look at him and I'm convinced that he's the right person, he's the right man, he's the right person, he has the right motives. And quite often as you get into organizations, you find that people begin to fight each other because we are suspicious of each other on a daily basis. And this is just increasingly becoming a challenge. And this model then says you need to begin to build the right component of trust coming out of the trust model that they have built to say, can I begin to trust you and build that trust coming on board? They also talk around the trust of communication, where they are saying, are we giving each other information in the right way? Are we able to disseminate information to each other in a right way? That becomes the trust of communication. Are we sharing information at the right time? Are we telling the truth to each other? Are we admitting mistakes when we're having them? Are we vulnerable to each other? So we find that a community is an ecosystem that wants to bring this idea of admitting mistakes and saying, hey, I messed up here. Can you come and rescue me? Can you also assist me as people that are in that community and in that setup? They also talk around giving and receiving constructive feedback. Quite often you find that at times we are not giving each other constructive feedback. At times people are giving each other feedback to harm each other. And we are saying, when we are going to be humanizing work, we need to be saying, when I come back to you with feedback, it's genuine feedback. It's coming out of an authentic heart, a heart that is saying, I'm giving you feedback not to kill you, but I'm giving you feedback to build you. And I'm tempted to borrow from Ken Blanchard, who talks around feedback being the breakfast of champions. It can only become the breakfast of champions when we are doing it in genuineness and we are together and we're traveling together on a journey which says you are because I am, and that becomes the heart of the Ubuntu concept. And to me, that's very critical. Maintaining confidentiality where you are able to share with each other, and Regina is there and she's sharing with me and something that is more like dear to her and that is more like confidential, and I'm going to keep that confidential, and that confidentiality nature is supposed to be very key in terms of us trusting each other. So that becomes the other common that they raise. They also talk about speak with good purpose, where you have a good heart and you're focusing on doing the right thing. They also talk about the last component, which is trust of capability, acknowledging people's skills and abilities, allowing people to make decisions, involving others and seeking their input, helping people learn skills. So when we begin to do that, we begin to wire a society that talks to sociology, where we are beginning to understand each other in a way that really talks around, are we capable? Is someone capable to deliver on what we want them to deliver? And as we do that, we begin to see each other as the same. So I'm looking at you and seeing you as me. And in that process, we are beginning to have a model that talks around humanizing work. And lastly, I would say, I would embrace all this in the coaching approach. A coaching approach says the coachee is the expert and the agenda is theirs. And as we begin to build that agenda, which is theirs, we are trusting them that they're capable to deliver. And you find that when we begin to even embrace team coaching, we are beginning to say the whole team can deliver, and we are giving them the space to do it. And I'm actually tempted to quote the late legendary of leadership, that is Peter Drucker, and management. And he was talking about the emergence in the 1990s. He was talking about the emergence of a knowledge worker that was going to come. And that knowledge worker was going to have a different set of skills that we needed to respect as leaders, and being able to actually participate with them and lead with them. And coaching is actually taking this idea of collective leadership away from heroic leadership. We are moving towards collective leadership, and collective leadership is humanizing work. Heroic leadership was about treating others in a different way and believing that you are the center of knowledge, you are the center of everything, you're the center of power. But you find that we are more like deconstructing that, that management approach and that leadership approach to say we need to have collective leadership and build collectiveness and moving together in a way that appreciates that we need to move together. We are not going to achieve greatness alone. We are going to achieve greatness when we move as a collective, when we move together as a community, even the community that is on this platform. If we begin to move together, we can establish a lot of traction and achieve great results. I think let me end it there. I believe that trust model and the coaching approach and coaching philosophies are going to bring about humanizing the workplace. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Mr. Cleopas. I will not go through the comments for now, and we'll push it forward because we're getting a lot of insights from our panelists. So we'll just keep it going for now. So our next discussion point is, have you witnessed instances where certain pressures towards management surpass the prioritization of humanizing the workplace? And if there are any, could you elaborate on them? This time, if we could start with Mr. Owen. Sir? Mr. Owen? Yes. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. So
Hello.
I think I lost you a bit.
Sorry, sir. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, yes.
Yes. The question is, have you witnessed instances where certain pressures towards management can surpass the prioritization of humanizing the workplace? And if you have experienced or seen instances like this, if you could elaborate on it a little bit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Truly so, I have witnessed, and I should say, also being a victim of such instances. As you may know, especially at the CEO level, when there's change in the boards that govern you and you report into them, they have a direct impact on how the organization will run. And I've witnessed instances where a new board comes in, it forgets about human beings who are found in the organization. And they begin to antagonize. Some of it can actually be deliberate to unseat people who are within. But I want to talk about the effects. When such things begin to happen, the environment within which people do work becomes sour. Now, you will understand that in a sour environment, you cannot get desired results. And so the entire human population will suffer because the human part of the organization has been put aside. And some of the results I'll share, the negative results, is that there's another concept that we have witnessed as human resource practitioners called presenteeism. Now, presenteeism is where someone is physically in a workplace, but because they are not valued, because they are not appreciated, they remain unengaged, and actually they become more harmful to the organization because they will influence the next person not to put in their best because they are not willing to work, because their morale is dampened. They will go to chat with the next person at the expense of productivity and offering of services. They will become wasteful in terms of company resources, because when you're not working, you may engage in internet activities, you may engage in personal things, you are printing, stationery, and all that. So it's a loss when we mishandle the concept of humanizing the workplace. So I am a victim and I have witnessed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. We now go to Mr. Cleopas. Sir, any examples that come to mind about the pressures towards management? Mr. Cleopas?
All right, thank you very much, Samantha. So you find that there are certain pressures that would come through and that would affect individuals to deliver value. I know one organization that I served some time ago, where they were focusing on achieving great results. And at the end of the day, their dashboard was calling on people to perform. And I could see some leaders that were becoming more like not focusing on humanized work, and that affected the whole process at the end of the day. So we need to really look at balancing the results and also bringing the people, because people then were broken down at the end of the day. Yeah, that's the example that I could give.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Mabel, would you like to share an instance or an experience, ma'am?
So for me, this is a very interesting part of the conversation, because I think that this is the part where we have actually had issues. I think the whole concept of dehumanizing the workplace has been a process. So, for example, in my country, Zambia, our culture is the high content culture. We learn a lot through proverbs. We learn a lot through parables. And we also learn a lot from society expectations. And you know, it's very interesting that what we see at the workplace and what our intention is as a culture are very different. Because when I was growing up, I didn't have cousins. I only had sisters and brothers. So it meant that even when we made decisions, it was always having in mind the other people. So we were, as we say with the Presidency Institute, that we were present in our culture and sensing also what else was going on around us. But as Christianity came, in the olden days, picking up on the Ubuntu theory, it is there in our culture in every language. Why? Because even when you arrived at anybody's home, they didn't ask you your name, like your first name, Mabel. They always asked, who's your father? Because depending on the interactions they had, then they gave you the dignity that was necessary for you. But as Christianity came, as industrialization came, we began to lose the essence and the core of our being. Then now we find ourselves in a society where there are three cultures. We have the culture at home, which is putting demands on me to be that person who is, I am, because they were, and because we all are. And I arrive in an organization which is a global organization, bringing a different culture and perception to how things should be done. And I'm still the leader. I have my way of being, I have my way of doing, I have my culture at home, and I'm now faced with this culture. If I am in the public sector, there is also another culture, which is there, perpetuated mostly from politicians, where that culture of truth-telling begins to erode because it takes a stand like them and us. Are you on this side or this side? Or are people creating perceptions that you are on that side and this side? And that is where this challenge comes, because then I want to humanize the workplace, but I have demands coming from all these cultures that are converging in me. And at one point, I'm reacting to the culture. And my behavior is actually different from my intention. So what we are saying now is to say, humanizing the workplace requires courage. It requires you to be able even to admit and say, if it is for the common good, let me be the example that brings that. Because maybe the culture in the organization is calling me to do something else. But what is my calling as a leader who wants to intervene in the system? And as I intervene, what is my own internal condition, knowing that it is informed by all these cultures? And this is the challenge, I think. And that is why, as leaders, we must learn that sometimes if I keep these things inside me and I don't give feedback as to what is the context in which I'm working, how does that impact my internal? And the people are seeing a behavior expressed in the 10% that they can relate to. But how has time affected who I am? So that when I truly find out what I have become, maybe it will be easier for me to be able to serve others better. And sometimes it will need sacrifice. Sometimes it will need pain. And sometimes it will need being a victim, like my colleague Chilala was saying, because maybe through my interactions, other people can learn. So it becomes really a process of self-cleansing and a process of cleansing the society by maybe going the systems thinking way, where we look at all parts making the whole, but also recognizing the complexity of life and saying, how do I then use that systems thinking approach to clean the small piece that I'm dealing with? And maybe those small shifts can then culminate into large scale change. At the same time, borrowing from Otto Sharma by saying, when we get to the bottom of the U, we must stop and reflect. So we must retreat and really understand self before we can try to change other people. That way, if we create that kind of culture in an organization, I think marching towards a humanized workplace, because you can tell when people have gross happiness and the things that they are able to do, it will be an easier proposition for a leader to deal with, because then through you, maybe the entire organization, especially if you are the CEO, will begin to see a different future. And they'll begin to relate and say, even as we are being forced into certain positions by the development of the world, maybe as human beings, we must remain an authentic self and begin to really interrogate that inner space and shifting our mindsets to really take a stand to say, I will be a better leader. I will be the person that intervenes, because the success of any organization, anything that we are going to do will depend on my personal internal condition. So as I'm cultivating mine, how am I creating the space for others to do the same? So it's a process. I don't think it is something we can tell people to do now and tomorrow it happens. I think it is something where we all need to make a decision to interrogate our inner self, so that as we intervene, we are very conscious of where we are sitting and we are paying attention to our intentions and seeing how are they changing as the external forces are actually bashing us from side to side. How do we remain the same person in that process? How do we give feedback to others so that others can also know where we are at in the world and they can take care of us? It's very mumbo jumbo the way I'm thinking about it, but I'm thinking culture can also be something that we use as an entry point in just recognizing that as we change habits, as the world converges, as things change, the cultures that we are meeting at the workplace are, I mean, if you are from Zambia, we have 72 cultures. We have 72 tribes going on. So as we are meeting this, how do I recognize my authentic self so that I can be that person that when I intervene, I create space for others to see me as that person who wants the humanized workplace?
Thank you, ma'am. Before we move on, I'd just like to ask Dr.
Yeah,
Justin if we have time
as my
for,
thoughts
sorry, ma'am.
Like to ask Dr. Justin if we have time for,
one more question, sir. Do we have time for one more question, or shall we open the floor for comments from some of our audience so we can ask the panelists?
One more question, or shall we?
One more question, then I think you can open the panelists. We should not exceed 1 hour 30 minutes.
1 hour and 30 minutes.
Panelists should not exceed 1 hour 30 minutes.
1 hour and 30 minutes.
All right, sir. So the last question we have for today is, what is your opinion on the significance of humanizing leadership? This is our last question. So if you could answer it in brief, so our audience has more time to interact with the panelists. The question is, what is your opinion on the significance of humanizing leadership? Ms. Mabel, we can start with you. Ma'am, you're still on mute. I'm sorry.
Off.
There you
Okay,
go,
so
ma'am.
I was just saying that in my opinion, leadership itself is a human activity. There can be no leadership if there are no interactions. And therefore, because we are trying to achieve so much greatness in the workplace, we have targets to meet, we have things that shareholders expect. I think what is missing is the ingredient of dignity in the workplace. Once we can have that, I think leading will be easier. Secondly, is to say that when you are a leader, you haven't changed into something else. So bring the best version of yourself in the process, and it will be that much easier than trying to pretend to be somewhere else. So for me, if we can humanize the workplace, even with all the work that we all need to do, it will be a much easier thing to be able to achieve the things that we've set out to do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Leave it there for now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. Owen, what is your opinion on the significance of humanizing leadership?
Thank you so much. That's one of our great questions. Leadership must be put in its right perspective, especially in our times. There was a time when leadership was about dominance of an individual. When they come in a workplace, because they are CEO, you run away from them, you hide. Now, that is very unproductive. So when we humanize leadership, we will allow leadership to interact with the workforce. Now, there's another concept I borrowed from David Swartz, who said, if a leader is a process, is a machine that makes decision, then it needs raw materials. And where are the raw materials? The raw materials are the suggestions and ideas of the subordinates. Therefore, if you are not humanized as a leader, you will have no raw materials because you have no interaction from your subordinates. So to humanize a leader gets him to the bottom, to the grassroots, where he will get these ideas and suggestions, and then together with his team, they will build a better empire for the human beings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cleopas, any insights on your opinion about the significance of humanizing leadership, sir?
Thank you very much, Samantha. And
Thank you.
what I would say about that last parting shot is that I will give a practical example. I have been observing a man called Strive Masiwa, who runs Econet Wireless Group, Econet Wireless International. And I would tell you that he started his organization without a lot of money. He would pay people. When you hear his case study, he will tell you actually as a testimony that he gives around how he formed this organization. He would at times fail to pay people on the expected dates because there were issues that were happening in the environment that were affecting their operation. But I tell you, because of his approach and his connection with people, people could understand him and they stood with him from that time. Some of them are with him up to now. He started this organization in 1998, and some of the people are with him. Some of them are CEOs. Where is that coming from? It's coming from the connection, the human connection. To say, he would say, we don't have money, but when the money comes, definitely we will share together. And that idea of making sure that he is open with his people, he's connecting with them, more like bred a high level of commitment. So the commitment, you could see it. I was even challenging people when I joined that organization to say, leadership, we are failing to maintain the commitment when we have money, but there's a man who had no money, but he was able to maintain the commitment. So humanizing work is a significant leadership concept that I believe this platform is actually pushing for organizations to embrace. And I think it's a critical concept. I believe OD is becoming the future of how organizations are supposed to be leading for them to succeed and make a difference in this environment. So I believe that what Charles Andy says when he says, in whatever what we've done, we've not done because there's more. It's a strong statement that we should actually embrace in this season, to say we have not done enough in terms of humanizing work. We need to go a scale higher and begin to change the way work is organized. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cleopas. And now we open the floor to the members of the audience who may have additional questions or comments. You can either unmute yourself or type it out in the chat box, and I am honored to read it out for you. Our panelists will address as many questions and comments as much as the time will allow. So while there are no people unmuting themselves, we can go back and read the questions. There is a comment from Dr. Dotun who says that he loves what Miss Mabel said. The ingredient is missing and should be brought back between executive expectations and interactions. And of course, there are a lot of thanks to the panelists for all their insights and all the information shared. Take feedback. Anybody with additional comments? Dr. Justin, maybe Mr. Patrick, Dr. Christine, Mr. Gina. Yes, anybody's welcome to unmute themselves.
I have a question for this astute panel.
Okay, so go ahead.
The question is, 99% of organizations are still in the 180-year-old industrial age hierarchy. We put people in boxes, we give people status, their roles. They have these positions of grandeur. So what is the influence of this old structure in the 21st century on humanizing the workplace? Or is this inhibiting such? Just ideas, just the hierarchical design itself, the box.
Any comments from our panelists? Sorry, sir. Is there an additional? Yes, go ahead. Miss Mabel is unmuting herself. Yes, ma'am.
I can say something. I agree with you, because for me, this is the challenge. And nowadays, when I'm invited to speak to executive teams in their retreats, I try to bring that. What I'm seeing, especially in large quasi-government institutions, the bureaucracy that goes with the way, first of all, people are appointed. And then, so their loyalties lie with the appointing authority. And sometimes they even know that this is wrong, but they are, there's an invisible hand that they fear. And I've been saying to them, I said, the same point, our inner space where we operate when we thrive is the same point where we can operate with a closed heart. So we are actually unhappy at the workplace, but maybe the economics is telling us we need money. So we are paying homage to these structures when we know we should be breaking them. And then we have disconnected with self. We've also disconnected spiritually. We've also disconnected economically. And therefore, we are just going through a motion of being a leader and not practicing the tenets of what we are preaching. And what is needed now is to be having self-talk and conversation and asking, really, is this the way I should be leading? Because unless the human beings come to the party, we can talk as much as we want about this notion, but when they go and face the reality of the bigger structures that they are dealing with, there's other things that are actually impacting on their capability. Within the same structures, once in a while, you see those that break the ceiling, and they do great work. But for some reason, it has been difficult for most people to have the courage to lead self before they can even lead others. The second thing I wanted to say is also about how the conversations around leadership are always where people are on the defense. So they can't accept feedback because it reminds them of their own inhibition. So what do? Leaders fall into a shell of themselves. But remember, we were saying, look, you don't have to be right about everything. Be your authentic self. Collaborate with others. Even when you have fears, it's okay to say, I am scared. It's a good trait for a leader to be able to even admit when they are wrong. But you see these things coming because the society we are in, unfortunately, I don't know about other continents, but in Africa, because we are developing nations, the quantum of people that can be absorbed into their jobs sometimes make leaders scared of losing that which is bringing them economic freedom. So maybe if we can also introduce a culture of bringing entrepreneurship in the workplace, people will not be scared to lose a job because they can know they can create one the next day. But for now, the homage seems to be paid to the appointing authorities, and that makes leaders not be their authentic selves. Now, authenticity is a big deal in leadership. If you can't be authentic, how are you going to develop other leaders? The other one is to say, if I don't know who I am, how will my ways of being or doing translate into this humanizing of the workplace that we are talking about? So we need to begin with ourselves. Have a look at the territory that we interact in and begin to see what are the leverages that can help me to still be loyal, but also do the right thing. And where I need to be the example, I should take the courage to take the leap and so on. The third point I wanted to say is this whole notion of stopping. I really think we need to always turn the beam of observation onto self. And when I can see I'm not bringing value, I should also have the courage to step aside, because it means I can see I am not the leader. I am a follower. Let me give chance to other people that can bring greatness to this. It's a very difficult decision, but must be done.
Thank you, Mabel. When I am asked what the first principle of leadership is, I always answer over the last 40, 50 years, know thyself. Enough said.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Thank you, Ms. Mabel. Any other comments from either our panelists or other audience members before we move to close this session?
Thank you. I think I will go.
Yes, please, sir.
Yes. What I will say is that effort in humanizing the place of work, no matter how small, even in what we're doing today, I'll start with where we are today. This is great effort towards this. And in my thinking, all of us present here, we must be ambassadors of this concept. And if there are people who are leading organizations here, don't just end by listening or talking here. Go and practice this which we teach. I will say we should, as leaders, stop managing individual tasks or performance for people, but create environments where all human beings will remain engaged and then give their full potential to humanity at large. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any closing notes from you, Mr. Cleopas?
Thank you very much. I liked what Patrick brought on the table there around the hierarchy and the boxes from an organization design perspective, and how at times some of those can create barriers around humanizing work. And I think it's a very powerful concept that he has brought in terms of questioning. And what I think we need to do is we need to be more like deliberate about how we humanize work. One thing I would say is I've seen a lot of organizations where people begin to break the barriers, because quite often you find people saying we have an open door policy in this organization. The doors will be open, but they will be shut. You find people also leading others, and they say, I want you to relate with me very closely, but they're so far away. So you want to say, how do you, to me, it's a psychological game. The psychology of work has to be revisited. We need to be saying, how do we psychologically deal with the barriers of this structure so that we make people comfortable to come to us and discuss with us? I'm challenged by Jack Welch as he introduced the concept of the Crotonville Academy that he left as a legacy for General Electric. And I think it's something that we can learn even in Africa. I've seen that organizations that are building academies and building, managing their cultures well. They are trying to do well, some of them that I'm observing. And Jack Walsh would say, disagree with me, as long as something is supporting strategy, I will pay you for disagreeing with me. And by making that act or making that practice, he was able to break the barriers, and he introduced the concept of Kenta in the workplace, where he said, irrespective of our continents, we were taught not to criticize our mother's cooking. But he then says, when the meal is not right, let's try to find a way of communicating it and making sure that it's acceptable and everyone knows what's happening. And he was able to make a leap of results within General Electric, and history has actually favored him in terms of leadership and making results. When you read his book called Winning, you can actually see how he was able to deliver strategy for the organization and also improve issues of quality by breaking the barriers, which Patrick has asked us, even as panelists, to say, how do you break those barriers? Are people greeting each other in their offices? Are they greeting their subordinates? When you begin to do some of these simple acts, you begin to connect with the people. One of these days, I remember I visited one of our staff members 500 kilometers away from where I work. My vehicle had challenges, but I had to take on public transport and go to attend their wedding. And when I arrived there and people saw that I had no car, I had come by public transport, and I'm just coming to meet with them. I realized that they were connecting with me more than I would do when I would use my car. So you find that there is a level of connection, which is a heart-to-heart connection, that we need to create from a leadership perspective that talks to people even in your absence. You are absent, but you are present with them as you begin to engage and talk with them. So that's what I would say. And I want to reinforce what my brother Sika Tumba there said, because he was talking around doing. I think we need to begin to do the simple acts and execute on them. One authority says an outstanding hunter does not shoot his prey with the sound of a gun, but with a bullet. So what are we saying we need to be doing? We need to be pushing that bullet as we execute in our day-to-day operations and reflecting on what we have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cleopas. Ms. Mabel, yes, I see that you've raised your hand.
I just, picked up from some of the things my colleague was talking, and this is about the heart-to-heart connections. I think also as leaders, we need to go back to the notion of listening. How are we listening to each other? And also how are we, because the whole issue about leadership is about recognizing the blind spots. And one of the blind spots that we have in this era is that we want to keep the old structures, and then we want to pack new information that's coming from the way we are developing into those old silos, because we don't listen to each other. So I'm just thinking that maybe moving from listening out of habit to actually dialoguing, so that all the time we are giving a chance to hear each other at a level where we can truly dialogue and navigate the future together. It's also about creating space to, as we listen, to truly get into the deeper meaning of the things that we are hearing, so that we can, if we only listen superficially. We'll only listen to the frames that are around us. But if we can also get out there and see what else is going on outside before we make decisions, it might help the workplace, because then everyone else will know that listening out of habit is good when it's necessary, but leading requires us to get into the deeper meaning of the things that are going on. When we do that, then we get to the heart-to-heart connections, because then we get deep into ourselves and be able to see what is good for the goose surely is also good for the gander, because we can feel from the feedback we are getting and the words we are using whether things are actually right in this time for us to be able to move forward. So the workplace must become a great learning environment, with a great experimenting environment. With Otto Sharma, we believe in sculpting the future, so that before we walk towards it, we kind of try to prototype it. I think that is the experimentation. So every day we are looking at what else. So it would become a great learning organization, listening to each other, so that even the things that don't make sense, maybe through sense making in a very collaborative way, we can find the deeper meaning of some of these things.
Thank you, ma'am. I see that Mr. Patrick has his hand raised. Sir?
Just to follow up with the two folks that just talked, I want to ask the panel a very simple question. Have you ever had a really good conversation with someone and they let their guards down and became a person, and it was just a good chat, and somehow in that space, they shifted their mindset, and maybe you shifted your mindset also. It goes to the old OD premise, how we see things is what we create, but it's that really good conversation. The word dialogue has been mentioned, same thing. But people can let their roles, their status, and become a person again, and that mind shift may shift. And then they start seeing things differently. And as they see things differently, they create things differently. So I'm just wondering if anybody's really experienced that kind of just nice kind of conversation happening.
So for me, it's through the simple conversations, not
Great,
so
man.
much the conversations where sometimes I've shifted my mind through just a conversation that maybe doesn't even have anything to do with work. But what I have, when I have created, I have created a container where there is a container where I can feel I am myself. And we are talking about maybe about our families, maybe about my garden at the back of the garden. And through that, I see people really bring the best of who they are. And when I see them through that lens, it starts reminding me of my own lens. And I find that through those simple conversations, I'm able to go back home and have deep conversation with myself. That helps me even to see the world with a new pair of eyes. Because sometimes I look at somebody and I think they're such a big deal, like they're a big CEO or whatever. And then I discover that they are vulnerable around something. And I start to see them as a human being. So when we can see each other as humans, that is when we are the best of who we are. You know, and it helps you to go back and reflect on your own situation. When we are doing the professional thing, we are in a dance, we are on a stage, we have different exits and entrances, but it's in those moments when we are just having normal conversation.
Thank you, ma'am. I see that Mr. Mompati has his hand up. Sir, would you like to briefly say your comment? You could unmute yourself or type it out in the chat.
Okay, greetings everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you very much, Samantha, and let me thank our panelists for such a great discussion we've had. We've learned quite a lot, but I just wanted to ask two questions there. I think I lost some of the information because of my network. One of the panelists was talking about maybe the CEO who comes into the organization and that leading to employees or subordinates running away. So on that one, I just wanted to find out who is at fault, who has changed not to be a human being. Is it the employee or the CEO? Why are people running away? Someone should have changed from being a human being. And then the second one that I wanted to ask was, we've got a culture of leaders who come into the organizations, maybe visiting, like Cleo was saying, he was visiting some of the people he's working with. And then the tendency of finding people seated and wanting them to stand up to greet. I don't know whether I'm putting it right there, but you are coming into my house and you want me to greet you simply because you are the leader. Maybe you can help me out there on is it right or is it wrong? I work with schools, and I've seen this being groomed from a tender age, that when you enter a classroom, all the students must rise because there's a visitor who is coming into the classroom. So I think this is growing from that perspective, going into the organization. I think that's all that I wanted to maybe pose to our panelists there to help me out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you,
stop
sir.
you there, Samantha, and we'll just give
Yes.
1 minute each to the panelists to respond to that. And then Regina, Dr. Christine will say a few words, then Regina will close today's session. But from me, we have had 3 sessions. And rather than just having these conversations on Zoom and putting them on YouTube, I think like Mr. Owen have said, we need to be more practical. We do have a university with us, UNICAF University in Zambia. We have consulting firms here, Transform Your Performance in US, EODC in Canada. We have Marble in Zambia, Dr. Dotun in Nigeria, and we have the Institutes of People Management here in Zimbabwe, and the Human Resource Institute in Zambia. What we are going to do, from what I'm thinking, is we are going to have an Africa-wide Humanizing the Workplace document, which we are going to be working on as a project to bridge the gap between academic and practice. And UNICAF University is going to be championing the academic side of things. And we have the 2 institutes here, and any other institutes from your network of HR institutes on the continent will need their input in that document. And we have consulting firms that are here to work on that document, which we need to really communicate with leaders in organizations and move away from just having these conversations here. So I'm championing that, and I need about 2 or 3 students to work with on that project. First of all, we're just going to put together the material that has been discussed during the previous sessions. We're just going to transcribe all that information, and we start packaging it as a document that we can present Africa-wide on humanizing the workplace. So do expect our communication. I see Nancy is here. I think Nancy is going to be championing that from UNICAF University. And we have international organizations. We have Regina and Patrick to support us in this particular project. And we hope to complete that within the next 6 months, all things being equal. So I'm championing that, and I will need 3 or 4 students to work with in transcribing this document, and we start distributing it along and have a concrete document which we need practical insights from organizations. Dr. Christine, then we'll have 1 minute insights from the panelists, then Regina will close.
I am actually short of words today, Justin. The panelists have just overwhelmed me. The issues that have emerged from these conversations are really, really great. And this idea you have brought, I think it's an excellent idea. I commend it. And we really need to help look for these young students that can actually help work with you. There's so much that has been spoken, and I think the concept of humanizing a workplace is one which is very, very crucial. Looking at the concept itself, humanizing, that's a present continuous tense, which means it's not one which is static, which should end in one day, but it's a process, like the panelists have said. It's a process, and it dictates to those that either in the organization, whether they are leaders, whether they are just team members, because it's the responsibility of each and everyone in an organization. Yes, the leadership is very crucial because everyone is looking up to the leader, which is not really the most important thing, because we need to get to a place where the culture changes. Like Mabel had said, the culture needs to change. We don't necessarily need to keep looking to the leader as the source of intelligence, the source of the knowledge, the source of the initiatives and all that, because each one of us are important. Each one of us are humans. Each one of us have got the intelligence, and it's about contributing what we know, that together we make the organization move on. So this is an important concept, which I think we should not just allow it to end here, but it is something that should be carried out. And then, like Justin has indicated, we come up with this project, finalize it, and let others learn from it. Otherwise, the panelists have spoken. There's so much that they have said. I was taking notes, but I can see I've got 4 pages of notes from what has been said, and I can't actually say everything of what has been said, but thank you so much for the great insights that have emerged from the conversations. I have learned quite a lot. There's nobody that should actually say they haven't learned. I'm saying they should not say they haven't learned, because learning has definitely taken place. Thank you so much. It was worthy calling on you guys to come on the panel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christine. Now each of the panelists will have 1 minute to briefly answer Mr. Mompati Kadi's question and comment, and as well as briefly say goodbye to the audience for today. Let's start with Mr. Owen.
Thank you so much. I'll take the first one. Who has become an animal between the leader and the... In this process which we are preaching now, we want everyone to be human, both the leader and the subordinates. We will just emphasize that with great power, as they say, comes great responsibility. For leaders, it is expected more than to become more human, so that you can influence everyone within your domain to be more human and treat human beings as valued from all angles and areas of life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Owen. Mr. Cleopas?
Thank you very much. And just to quickly respond to that question, I think I will agree with my brother Owen. There's need for co-creation in the workplace. What it means is that the idea of collaborating, the love is not love unless it's shared. So at the end of the day, we need to share that love, create that love within the workplace where we just get to connect with each other. What has gone wrong is I can't say it's one side. It comes from both ends. You would find that it differs by organization, but generally you'll find that it has come from both ends. But now is the time to reunite and connect in the workplace and make sure that we add a lot of value at the end of the day. So that will be my response. And then the idea of greeting, I think, yeah, it differs with context and everything, but it's key that people begin to connect. I think where I've seen this humanizing work, people would just connect with each other. There's a hierarchy, but still they are reaching out to each other, and they are creating value at the end of the day. Thank you very much, and it has been a pleasure being on this platform, and I want to thank you for organizing a great platform for us to learn and also to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cleopas. Miss Mabel, coming to you, ma'am.
Okay, so leadership is just leadership, and it emerges from all levels of the organization. So just because you're CEO You're not the ultimate leader. So I think if you come into a new place, one of the things is also to be conscious that you are new, so you're on a pedestal. So we are expecting both the led and the leader to embrace each other. But then you as the leader has the convening power. And therefore you must make it deliberate for people to see you, for example, creating a container where people can feel safe and not vulnerable around you. So if there's a safe container, the journey to actually connecting is shorter than if you come with the carrot and stick attitude. So using life-giving language to your teammates who you are leading helps them to see that humanness in you. So it's everyone's business, but you have the convening power to create that container. Then in terms of greeting, if there's one thing I think we have learned between 2019, December and now, is that we were forced to stop greeting each other. But you know, our eyes laugh, our eyes speak, even behind the mask. Let exuberate the energy that make people want to connect with us, because as human beings, we thrive when we are interconnected and interdependent. Thank you so much for inviting me. I have thoroughly enjoyed being on this panel.
And we've enjoyed having all three of you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I would now like to hand over the floor to Ms. Regina to formally close the session. Ma'am?
Yes, thank you, Samantha. Thank you all for an enriching, insightful, and very authentic conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. And I did have high expectations for the sessions, as I said at the beginning. And I have to say, they have been surpassed for sure. So I really wish that more HR professionals and leaders and CEOs could have open-minded conversations like the one we've had here today. And I think we all agree that co-creation is the future. It brings us more job satisfaction, more wealth for all, and it actually has also a positive impact on the bottom line in the long term or in the medium term. Because the old paradigm of competition, as we here know, is based on scarcity thinking, while co-creation is based on abundance thinking. Co-creation is based on I see you. I see you with your unlimited potential, and I allow you to show you that to show us that potential. Yes, to show that potential to me. And if humanity wants to advance, and this is my opinion, a big piece of that leadership needs to shift from leadership of others to self-leadership. Yeah, it is that dynamic process, as we have heard today from someone. I think it was Mabel who said that. Yes, so the time we're in is asking us to recognize our self-leadership potential, to stand in our sovereignty and to lead ourselves, both in the workplace and in all areas of life. This is also about personal freedom, which is tightly knit into the concept of humanizing the workplace. I personally am a huge fan of freedom. Everything I do is in the service of freedom. And from what I'm hearing in this session, human freedom is also what you stand for. So let's continue the good work together and put the beautiful words that were shared during this session into action, into the spirit of Ubuntu. Thank you so much. This was—
Thank you very much, Ms. Regina. Thank you, ma'am. And with that, audience, we come to the end of our 6th session of our Reframing Corporate Perspective series. Mr. Cleopas, Ms. Mabel, Mr. Owen, and of course, the rest of our audience members in the Zoom classroom today, we appreciate you for giving your time to participate in this discussion. I, together with the rest of the audience, walk away from this session with a lot of newly gained knowledge, like Dr. Christine said. I, of course, would also like to thank the viewers in our FB classroom, if we have any, and our future viewers. And we hope to have you in all of our upcoming events very, very soon. This is Samantha Nadine Abu Salas wishing everyone a very good day, and please stay safe. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, our panelists. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks for all participants.
Doctor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Good.
Yes, sir. It's good to have you. Fantastic. Really fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope you are getting this recorded version because we need to look at it again and listen because so much has been said and we need to also learn so much from it individually.
Yes, it will be available. Mr. Mompati, thank you so much for volunteering to be part.
My notes is filled up here, so I need to read it, take time and look at it again. It was amazing.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Justin. Thank you.
Hey, Mary, good to see you. Thank you so much.
I actually joined it very late. I know that there's going to be a very rich section. So hope we get the recording.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry that I joined very late. Thank you so much. Lovely afternoon.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'll end the meeting now.
Thank you.
Dr. Justin.
One
Dr.
second.
Justin. Sorry. How do we bring in, how do we bring in public space also? Because if you recall that Mr. Patrick made mention of